Hi friends, I'm here today with my March TBR. You might notice a few different things. I've changed my shelves a little bit, changed my hair a little bit. It's been pretty busy around here, but and I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded in a couple of weeks at this point. Things just got really busy with work and everything around here in grad school, and I just haven't really been feeling it. But I wanted to go ahead and bring you guys my March TBR. If you follow me on my blog, you may have seen that I'm changing the way that I prioritize my reading a little bit because I've been having a little bit of a hard time lately, and I've been kind of falling out of love with reading a little bit, and that's a really big problem because reading has been one of my favorite things in the world since I can remember. So I decided that something I'm going to do to try to make this better is to kind of deprioritize my review copies a little bit and start focusing on my backlist a little bit more and more mood reading. So this is a little bit of a smaller TBR than I've been making lately. And the other thing is that I'm not putting review copies on any of my TBRs anymore. That's just going to be like a new rule. Give myself room to mood read more and to stop focusing exclusively on review copies. So my first book on my March TBR is actually a reread of a favorite, and it's An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I read this back when it came out as an ARC, and I just absolutely adored it. It's one of my favorite fantasy standalones of all time. And so I'm actually in a friend's book group called the Books and Tea group, and they have a Discord server that everything happens on. I'll link to some information about that below if you're interested. But anyways, the Discord server does their group reads on a 2-month basis. So for March and April, one of the reads is An Enchantment of Ravens, and I'm going to try to go ahead and get to it in March just because I'm really ready to revisit this world again. I've already reread this once or twice, and so I'm very excited to visit it again. It's a YA fantasy standalone in a fae world where there is the world of whimsy, and fae and humans kind of coexist. But fae are not capable of producing anything creative, and they aren't supposed to be depicted with any kind of mortal emotions, like they're just above that. And so our main character is Isabel, and she's a painter who paints portraits of fae folk. But one day she's painting the Autumn Prince Rook, and she makes the mistake of painting sorrow in his eyes. And so it literally causes this sort of court war in the fae world. And Rook drags Isabel to the fae world to make it right. And it's just super atmospheric. Rook is hilarious because he's really literal and he doesn't really know anything about people, and so he's just really awkward all the time. And their romance is so precious. It's a fantasy romance, and it's a very quick read. So if you're interested in joining us, like I said, I'll put some information below about that. And referencing back to that blog post, if you saw it, you may have seen that I'm also trying to prioritize group reads and buddy reads more, because like I had said in my 2020 goals, I really want to do more buddy reads in this year. So the second book on my March TBR is another group read, and it's actually for Kayla from Books and Lala's new book club, the Literally Dead Club, and I'll post information about all of these down in the description. But the book she chose for March is Platform 7 by Louise Doughty, and it's a thriller horror that I've talked to a few people who have already read it, and they've said that it leans more paranormal horror than it does thriller. But it follows this woman named Lisa Evans, who 18 months ago actually passed away at a railroad station for a train. And since she died, her ghost has been roaming the station, kind of observing people and watching the passengers and trying to figure out what happened to her. So 18 months has passed, and she witnesses another man come into the station by himself, and right before the train arrives, he actually steps onto the tracks. And so she gets kind of swept up in his story and trying to figure out what's going on, why was he there, what happened to him, and is it somehow connected to her? I don't get to read a lot of books with ghosts as main characters, but that is one of those oddly specific tropes that I really, really love, is to read about a ghost as a main character. So I'm very excited for that just based off of this. Okay, and then the third book on my TBR is another group read, and it's Malice by Pentip Dunn. This is the group read for the Dragons and Tea book club on Goodreads. It's going from March 16th to March 20th. This is a YA sci-fi romance about a girl named Alice who's a high schooler, and she gets a message from someone claiming to be herself in the future, and it's telling her that in the future there's going to be a virus that's going to wipe out most of humanity, and the person who's responsible for that virus is actually one of her classmates. But the problem is that she doesn't know who it is, but she's led to believe that it may be the boy that she loves. So she kind of has to decide, I guess, like how she's going to try to stop, the world from being destroyed basically as we know it, while not wanting to believe that the boy that she loves is going to grow up to be a monster. I'm going to try to wait until the 16th to start it, but I actually really want to start it sooner, so I'm not sure. Okay, and then the fourth book on my TBR is the last one that's a group read, and I feel like a lot of people are going to freak out because everyone's been telling me I need to read this for years and years and years and years. It is for the Vampires, Wares, and Fae Goodreads group that I'm in. We do buddy reads every month, and I think we're actually doing a series buddy read of one book a month. So if I like it, I'm definitely going to get the rest of them. And That is Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. I know I've never read Vampire Academy, and I feel like everyone's always so shocked, and everyone always tells me you have to read it, and it's so good, and it's so nostalgic, and I hear it's got all of those old school like YA paranormal fantasy vibes, so I'm very excited. I'm sure everyone knows what this is about, so I probably don't have to tell you. All I know about it is that the main character is like a bodyguard to her best friend who's a vampire, and they go to a boarding school. That's all I really know about it, so I'm very excited to pick this up. Okay, and then the rest of my TBR for March is actually for the Backlist Readathon, which is going on from March 9th to 15th, and it's hosted by a lot of people that I love very much. So I'm going to link all of their channels below. Please, please, please check out this readathon because it looks like so much fun, and I'm super excited. Hi. Meow. Somebody came to say hello. So this readathon has 6 challenges, and the first challenge is to read your shortest backlist title. And for this, I'm going with The Legend of the Golden Raven by Kate Ankrum. This is a companion novella to The Wicker King, which I loved so much. It's about these 2 teenage boys who are kind of falling in love and discovering themselves as they work through the fact that one of the boys is starting to see a world that might not be real, but it's very real to him. And so the main book was told through August's perspective, and he is not the one who sees this fantasy world. So we're kind of getting to see from an outside perspective, but the novella is, I guess, a shortened retelling of the story through Jack's perspective, where we'll actually get to see this fantasy world that he has been kind of living in his head. It's only 40 pages long. I've had the ebook forever and I've been meaning to read it, but I haven't read it yet because I didn't really want to like not have it anymore, if that makes sense. I've been so excited for it that it's like, oh, when I'm done with it, I'm not going to have any new Jack and August content, but I'm very excited to read it. So that'll probably be the first thing that I pick up for the Backlist Readathon. So the second book on my TBR for the Backlist Readathon. Okay, so the second challenge for the Backlist Readathon is to read a book that intimidates you. And this one, literally when I read this challenge, this was the first book on my own TBR that just immediately jumped out at me. I was like, I have to read it for this. And that's Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I've been meaning to read this forever. I've never read anything by Karen Slaughter, and so many people who know my taste in books have told me that they think that she'll be right up my alley because I guess she writes very dark, pressing thrillers. So this intimidates me partially because of the hype and partially because I'm told that it is extremely graphic. A lot of people have told me that it's a very hard read, so I'm definitely going to make sure that I'm in a really good mindset when I go into this one, and if I don't feel like I'm in the right headspace for it when the readathon comes along, then I'll probably swap it out for something else. But as of right now, I am really, really looking forward to reading it. And then the third challenge for the readathon is to read a book that somebody else has recommended to you, and for this I'm going with Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant. I read Rolling in the Deep, the prequel novella, in February, and I loved it so much. I have been meaning to read it forever and ever, and I finally did, and I absolutely devoured it, and I had a book hangover from it, which honestly never happens to me. I very, very rarely get book hangovers, but I couldn't touch anything else for like 10 days almost afterwards because it just left me reeling. But in the prequel, there is a ship who takes a crew out to do a mockumentary about mermaids. Obviously, they don't really expect to find anything, but when they get there, they do find something, and it turns out that the mermaids are these really like murderous, violent, horrible creatures, and it's so good. Well, in Into the Drowning Deep, it's 7 years later, and the sister of one of the victims of the novella is setting out with a new crew to try to find out what happened. Everyone basically thinks that this ship 7 years ago just kind of disappeared without a trace, and like nobody knows what happened. And so this woman is setting out to find out what happened to her sister and the other people on the ship. This has been recommended to me by countless people. One of the hosts for the readathon, Melanie, is actually one of the first people who recommended it to me. Really, really excited to finally read this. Okay, and then the next challenge is to read a backlist title that you're excited to read, and for this I'm going with Alice by Christina Henry. I think maybe I scared myself a little bit with my own hype for it because I love horror Alice in Wonderland retellings. That is just one of my things that I just really love, and I think Christina Henry is the queen of retellings. I just think she's absolutely amazing. So the next challenge for the Backlist Readathon is to read a diverse backlist title, and for this I'm going with another one that I have just been meaning to read forever. I actually pre-ordered this, so I've had it since it came out, and the series is completed now, I think, and I still haven't read it. And that's The Bone Witch by Rencha Pecco. Rencha Pecco is Filipino, and I believe they are non-binary. I know they use they, them pronouns. And so I do know that I have seen this marketed as a diverse fantasy many, many times. I'm not exactly sure if it's like Filipino influences on the fantasy world. First of all, I just think this is one of the prettiest covers I've ever seen in my life. I am so obsessed with this cover. I never get tired of it. It is about a girl named Tay who knows that she is a witch like the people in her family, but she doesn't know, I guess, what her magical powers are exactly until she accidentally resurrects her brother. And so she learns that she's a necromancer, and I guess there are a lot of costs that come to being a necromancer in this world. So this just sounds like everything that I'm gonna love, and I can't imagine not enjoying this. So I'm very, very excited to pick it up. How many times can I say I'm very excited in one video? Okay, and finally for the last book on my March TBR, and this is the last challenge for the readathon, it's to pick a book with blue on the cover, and I'm going with my anniversary edition of Rosemary and Rue by Shauna Maguire. Everybody knows I love Shauna Maguire so very much. This is the first book in the October Day series, which I've been meaning to read for years. The series is pretty far along at this point, so it's just nice to know that if I love this as much as I feel like I will, there are so many more books in this world ahead of me. But anyways, this does have blue on the cover. It's got kind of this, you know, bluish gray back here, and I think I'm actually going to be buddy reading this with Melanie, one of the co-hosts for the readathon, so I'm very excited. We haven't done a buddy read in a long time, but we used to have the most epic buddy reads, and so I just know we're going to have a really good time with this one. Okay, and that's it. That's my March TBR. I am... Please stop saying so excited. I am overly eager for these books. I am very ready to start on these. I haven't felt this good about a monthly TBR in a very long time, so that tells me that I'm doing the right thing by taking review copies off of my TBR and starting to focus on the things that I want to read more. But anyways, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these. I'm sure with Vampire Academy being on there, most of you have probably read at least one book on this TBR. But let me know what you're most excited for me to read. If you want to buddy read any of these, you know, definitely hit me up in the comments. And let me know what you're reading in March. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe. It always means so much to me. And I hope to see you in another video again soon. Bye!